Hello there, English Grade 12 University. It is May 15th, and we are coming at you with your class of the day. So, before we get down to business, there's an important note. It is Victoria Day on Monday, right? So, what that means is that there will be no video or class or Google Meetups then, right? Because, well, it's a national holiday. So that means our Google Meetup will have to be rescheduled. And I think the best day for it this week would be Thursday, May 21st at 1 p.m., right? That's what I'd like to do. Uh, because we're going to be starting short stories, today. And it would be good if you guys read some short stories before we went into the Google Meetup, right? Rather than going at it right at the beginning. So yeah, that's the day I want to do. Let me know if there's any problem with that. Next, your reflections are due today. The one about assault rifles and the one about Brian Adams. So let me know if you need more time, but do know that things will start to pile up real fast if you take too long. Now, the way you hand it in, as I mentioned yesterday, is through Google Classroom. You'll see here it says Faisal posted a new assignment. You'll click on that, and it'll take you right there, and you'll be able to hand it in. You can also click up at the top on classwork and click there to hand it in that way, right? So it's due tomorrow at midnight, but if you need more time, get in touch with me and let me know. And if you're having any trouble with either of the reflections, just let me know, right? And we'll hopefully sort it out. All right. So that's what's going on with the reflections. Oh, one more thing. If it is at all possible, I would prefer if you guys handed it in through Google Documents, right, rather than Microsoft Word or PDF, right? PDF, please just don't send me those. But Microsoft Word, I would prefer if you just copied and pasted into a Google document, right? The reason for that is that it's much easier for me to mark if you have it in Google Documents as opposed to Microsoft Word, right? It is Google Classroom that I'm working, and Google likes Google. So if you can, please use Google Documents for that. Oh, and for those of you who are, writing it on paper, right, on all that, you can just go ahead and send me photos of your chosen um, reflections through email, right? That's only if you are unable to type, right? I would prefer obviously typed stuff, but if you need to send me photos, just do it in the same way through email. So that brings us to short stories. So our goal for these short stories is going to be boosting our critical thinking skills and analytical skills, right? We want to learn how to read between the lines, analyze texts, and figure out things like symbolism, themes, and the author's deeper intentions, right? When you go to university, no one's going to ask you to write a summary, right? So it's not going to be about, well, do you know what happened in the story? It's going to be asking things about why certain things happened in a story and what exactly is the author's intention, right? And also giving your own creative take on stories, right? So that is what you will see happening in university, and that's what we're going to be trying to do right now, right? So critical thinking, analysis, and using evidence are going to be what we really emphasize in these particular lessons. Now, you're probably wondering, how am I going to be evaluated here, right? Normally, if we were all together in a classroom, I would give you a test, right? But that's impossible in the circumstance, right? I don't know how I would ever test you without it being incredibly easy to cheat. So I was thinking, you know what? Let's try something a little different. So here's the plan. You guys are going to be reading 4 short stories over the next week. And instead of giving you a test, what I'm going to do is each short story is going to have one big question that you're going to answer in about 7 sentences, right? A short paragraph is sufficient for each of them. Or you could say it's a short answer. Each of these questions will have its answer marked out of 5, right? With 3 marks for content, right? As in your answer, whether it's right or not, analysis, everything like that, and 2 marks for spelling, right? So 3 and 2 equals 5. So every day you'll have a question to answer. And then at the end of the week, right, you'll have done 4 short stories, and it's going to be out of 20, right? And we will put that all together, and that will be what we will call, I guess, a test mark, right? So that's my idea for this, right? So the questions are going to be big questions, right? Something that you'll have to think about a little bit, but you'll have just one a day, right? And you'll answer 4 questions in all, and it will all come to 20 marks, and your test is out of 20, right? So I was thinking that I think it's a good idea, but we'll see how it works, right? This whole online teaching is all about experiments, so this is just a little experiment that we'll do here. If this goes well, we can do something similar for Othello when it comes time to read Othello. All right, so, meow, wait, when will this be due? Good question. So it will be due probably the Monday after next, right? Because we're going to be doing 4 short stories, so that'll be 4 different classes. Plus, we have one day off next week and another day that's going to be part of our Google Meetups. So, it'd probably be best to have it due on Monday, May 25th, right? So that is when it's going to be due right now. If I feel we need more time, I'll give you more time. Meow. Okay. What if I miss a question one day? You'll have to make up for it, right? Remember, if you don't do it, it'll be a 0, right? You don't want that. So make sure you keep up with the short story questions every day, uh, because if you pile them all up, it'll be much harder for you. Meow. Sounds hard. No, you guys will be fine. Don't worry. I'll try my best to explain things, and of course, you can ask me any question you want. Meow. Okay. Will do my best. Thank you, Dracos. So, let's go on to our first short story then. So, our first short story is a story called Happy Endings, right? Which is by a woman named Margaret Atwood, who is one of Canada's most famous authors. In fact, she might even be Canada's most famous author, period, right? Because she is pretty well known, and her profile has gotten bigger and bigger because her book, which she wrote about 20 years ago now, The Handmaid's Tale, is now a Netflix series, right, which had a fair bit of popularity. And she's written a bunch of other books too, so certainly on the world stage, Margaret Atwood is one of, if not the most famous of our Canadian authors right now. Now, this story, as you will quickly see, is a little bit strange, right? It's not maybe what you're used to in terms of writing stories, right? Because this story is what we call postmodern. Now, a postmodern story is a story, or postmodernism are stories and art that are suspicious or distrustful of normal kinds of art and try instead to critique normal kinds of stories or art by either parodying them or putting a little spin on them, right? So, um, it's a hard concept to understand, but essentially it's a art movement very much dedicated to doing things differently, right? In order to show that the way that you normally do them is kind of strange or weird or wrong. Um, it results in some strange things, but it's certainly a very big movement. And if I guarantee, if you take any kind of English course at the university level, you're going to run into this sort of stuff. So, postmodernism is best understood by experiencing it. Now, when you study short stories, some of you might be familiar with this thing that I just put up on the screen, the so-called plot graph, right? Where you've got exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. This story is not like that at all, right? Let's take a quick look here. John and Mary meet. What happens next? If you want a happy ending, try A. And then it says John and Mary fall in love and get married. They both have worthwhile and remunerative jobs, which they find stimulating and challenging. They buy a charming house. Real estate values go up. Eventually, when they can afford live-in help, they have two children to whom they are devoted. The children turn out well. John and Mary have a stimulating and challenging sex life and worthwhile friends. They go on fun vacations together. They retire. They both have hobbies which they find stimulating and challenging. Eventually, they die. This is the end of the story. So you'll notice this story, and it's just about 3 pages, is multiple choice, right? So that was ending A, right? The beginning is John and Mary meet, but then there's all sorts of different options for what happened to John and Mary that you're going to read about, right? So this is not a traditional short story, right? It is instead a sort of multiple choice options short story, right? Which is sort of the kind of thing that postmodernism likes to do. So, what I'd like you guys to do over your weekend, after you've handed in your reflection, is just give this little story a read. Right? It's kind of, I think it's kind of funny, right? Margaret Atwood, not my favorite author myself. I don't love her, but she has definitely got a certain wit to her, I guess. And give this story a read, and you should be able to enjoy it. There is some interesting things about it, certainly. And then, come Tuesday, I will post a video which will have a question for you about this story. And you will answer that, and then another story will be given, another question, and we'll go on like that. All right. So, I hope you guys are going to have a good Victoria Day. I hope you're all safe and everything like that. And I will see you all on Tuesday. So give it a read, and thanks so much.